have done this. And as part of the obligations is for us to continue sharpening our saws as professionals. And this evening seeks to provide an opportunity for us to just do that. As we continue on this path of becoming ethical leaders, we want to deeply and fully appreciate our duties. What do we understand by leadership in general? We do know that leadership is both an art and a science. There is that age-old conversation whether leaders are born or made. We also know that leadership in essence may be as complex as communication. What do we know? Have we tested our source? Would we pass any test as directors or leaders, even if we were leading ourselves? What tools do we have to solve problems? How do we take decisions? What informs the quality of our decision making? What considerations do we make? This evening, we have come together to sharpen our saw, not just in fulfillment of our professional obligation as members of a professional body, but also to sharpen our saw so we become better leaders in our spheres of influence. I would like all of us to listen attentively, challenge the assumptions that we hold about leadership in general, and what ethical leadership in particular is about. And then during the question and answer time, we will have more on this note. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Dr. Brahma, please, will you introduce to us the speaker as we launch into our webinar?
Thank you so much, Sarah, Madam President, Prof. Boateng, Fellow of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. Good evening.
Good evening.
The topic, Madam President, has set the tone already, which basically is inviting us to as it were, sit back, listen attentively, and learn from the pool of wisdom that Prof. Boateng has, as it were, gathered over the years. My job is very simple, to introduce the speaker, who is Professor Douglas Boateng. Professor Douglas Boateng holds an MSc. He also holds a PhD in engineering. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Engineers, for East Plant Engineers, Institute of Supply, fellow management, a fellow directors, chartered director. He is also an international director, industrialist, and business adjunct academic, and is in company direction, masters in systems, and a doctorate in engineering, as I mentioned before. Ladies and gentlemen, for a single individual with his breadth and depth, not only of experience, but qualifications across several disciplines, he clearly is the right person to handle this topic for today, i.e. perspectives on the complexities of purpose, morality, and ethics in leadership. Now, he was Africa's first ever appointed professor extraordinary for supply chain management. classes, extensive experience and expertise in director development, strategy, supply chain management, and procurement, development. He has successfully held several multi-sectoral positions in various industries sectors. Professor Boateng, income and under his supervision, the fund has grown from assets under management AUM 180 over 2 billion within 22 months. He is also the non-executive chairman of Labari Beach Hotel, the still-owned five-star hotel, currently one of the most profitable and admired for service quality in Okay. It appears participants are not hearing. Yeah. So I'm just going to continue. He's also a non-executive chairman of the Labadi Beach Hotel, a state-owned five-star hotel, currently one of the most profitable and admired for service quality in the ECOWAS sub-region. Under his guidance, the hotel has continuously declared record dividends to the state, a clear testimony of not only leadership, but the delivery of a champion in the area of good corporate governance. Professor Douglas has been inducted into several global institutional and organizational walls of fame. Among them is the Institute of Directors South Africa 208 for his worldwide contribution to logistics, supply chain governance, and management. For various groundbreaking publications, groundbreaking awareness campaigns, leadership roles, mentorships, public speaking, and thought-provoking publications and books on supply chain management governance, strategic sourcing, and its inextricable link to industrialization and long-term economic development. He has also been honored with over six independent Lifetime Achievers Awards for various global organizations, including Hewlett-Packard in 2018. He is the founder of Panavest International, the founding non-executive chairman of My Future, Your Future, and Our Future, MYO, and the originator and wordsmith for the highly popular daily Nyansakasa, Words of Wisdom, which has over 1 million global daily readers and followers, aiming to inspire themselves and others for mindset change in support of the UN SDGs and long-term inclusive development. Other notable roles, including an adjunct industrialization and supply chain governance professor at the University of Mines and Technology, the UMAT. He is also a fellow of the Institute of Directors, UK and South Africa, Society of Operations Engineers, UK, Institute of Plant Engineers, UK, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, UK and South Africa, Chartered Management Institute, UK, Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, UK, Institute of Business Consulting, UK, and the Institute of Operations Management, UK. Professor Boateng has authored over 90 publications, including one groundbreaking French and English manuscript on 1A, supply chain management, 1B, strategic sourcing and industrialization, 2, pioneering, easy to digest, and practical perspective books on 2A, boardroom dynamics and governance, and 2B, UN Sustainable Development Goals, and 2C, negotiations. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that a man, a distinguished professor with such a pedigree, is basically the right person to handle this topic for today, which is perspectives on the complexities of purpose, morality, and ethics in leadership. As a fellow of the Institute of Directors, you will agree with me that, that is the highest level as far as the membership of the Institute is concerned. He is better placed to, as it were, treat us to this very important topic today. So join me to welcome him and thank him for agreeing to as it were, be a speaker for today's Fellows Roundtable. Thank you so much. So, Prof. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I appreciate it. Good evening, good evening, good evening. All protocols observed. I hope all is well with your good selves. It is indeed an honor to address and interact with such a distinguished guest of professionals, leaders, and experts. I'm really humbled. Today, I would like to delve into a topic of paramount importance in leadership: the interplay of purpose, morality, and ethics. These three elements are foundational to effective leadership and profoundly influence the character and trajectory of individuals, organizations, and even societies. My good colleagues, purpose. What is really purpose? For me, purpose acts as a guiding light, driving leaders forward with clarity and intent. It fuels every decision and action, motivating both the leader and their team to pursue a shared goal. The key words: pursue a shared goal. Leaders who are articulate in their purpose effectively can inspire and unify their teams, fostering a collective sense of direction and belonging. My first food for thought for my distinguished colleagues to reflect on. Today, do most leaders fully understand their purpose and its implications for purposeful leadership? Do most leaders really understand their purpose and its implications for purposeful leadership? What is it? Purposeful leadership. For me, and for my international experts and seasoned professionals, it is still an evolving concept. In the context of developing nations, purposeful leadership transcends conventional directional and management practices. It transcends conventional directional and management practices. It emphasizes creating a positive social impact and advancing sustainable development. Purposeful leaders prioritize empathy, collaboration, and long-term vision to navigate the unique challenges faced by their organization in especially emerging economies. Purposeful leaders in these settings possess a deep understanding of local cultures, economic conditions, and social dynamics. They use their influence to empower communities, champion inclusivity, and drive innovation. The key words: empower communities, champion inclusivity, and drive innovation for the common good. By aligning their organizational goals and with regional developmental objectives, they do not only contribute to economic growth, but also uphold social and environmental responsibility. We all have issues with Galamsey right now, and I'm sure it's one of the questions that we are going to discuss today. In this framework, purposeful leadership is not merely about personal or corporate achievement. It is about making significant positive contributions to society as a whole. Making positive contribution to society as a whole. My second food for thought and question for my fellow distinguished colleagues: do purposeful leadership evolve over time? For example, did Dr. Kwame Nkrumah lose sight of his initial purpose? Is this the reason why he was overthrown in 1966? This is something that we all need to reflect on. Now, morality versus moral values. Morality is a cornerstone of human society, encompassing the principles and beliefs that guide ethical decision-making and distinguish right from wrong. Distinguish right from wrong. Moral values are the specific ideals that individuals uphold as they navigate the complex journey towards the inevitable death. Moral values are the specific ideals individuals uphold as they navigate the complex journey towards the inevitable death. It is crucial to recognize that morality and moral values are not merely subjective or open to interpretation. They represent objective standards that influence our actions and interactions. These principles underpin the creation of a just society where fairness, honesty, compassion, and integrity are paramount. Effective leaders face ethical dilemmas, and a strong moral foundation helps them to navigate these complex challenges, especially in emerging economies. By adhering to principles such as honesty, fairness, and respect, leaders build trust and foster ethical behavior within the organizations and societies in which they reside or have business interests. My third food for thought for my good colleagues. As a leader, what are your core moral values? Something as a leader you really need to constantly reflect on so that you can become an effective leader and also to be able to make an impactful difference in society. Gone are the days when it was just about profit. Now it's about social responsibility, making a difference in the societies that you operate. Now let's look at moral-driven leadership. Morality-driven leaders in developing nations serve as exemplars of ethical behavior. They create environments that promote collaboration, productivity and performance, innovation and accountability, and set standards for future generations to come. Setting the standard for future generations to come. We need to ask ourselves as leaders, are we setting the standards for future generations to come? What are the youth looking up to? The youth obviously are very confused in terms of where they are going. Is it because of us, or is it because we are not purposeful in terms of what we are telling them? The more we get confused at the top, the more our youth also get confused, and the youth is the future. So if we don't help them to, have a straight, narrow path, then we are all in trouble. Such leaders, morality-driven leaders, respect cultural diversity while advocating for universal principles of justice and equality. They view different perspectives as assets rather than as obstacles. A lot of our African leaders, they don't like to be challenged, and they get very vindictive when they are challenged about issues. My fourth food for thought and question for my distinguished colleagues to reflect on: does morality shift over time? Was Dr. Robert Mugabe, for example, justified in adhering to his own moral principles and convictions in the face of evolving political landscape in the SADC region, South African Development Community? Now, my colleagues, let's look at ethics. Ethics provide a framework for responsible behavior across various situations, whether within organization or within society. It shapes our actions, choices, and interactions, both personally and professionally. By prioritizing ethics, individuals build a foundation of integrity, transparency, and empathy, and more importantly, fairness. Ethical decision-making acknowledges the broader impact of one's actions on others, one's impact of their actions on others, and strives to address societal needs while upholding fundamental human rights. What is ethically driven leadership, my colleagues? In today's rapidly evolving and complex world, the significance of ethical leadership cannot be overstated. This is especially true in developing nations like Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, and many more, where ethical values and principles are critical in guiding decision-making and actions to impact and change lives. Ethical leadership transcends mere compliance with laws and regulations. It embodies a deeper commitment to what is right and just for the advancement of society. It embodies a deeper, let me repeat, a deeper commitment to what is right and just for the advancement of society. Ethical leadership is not simply about holding the position of authority. It involves setting a moral example and inspiring others to adhere to ethical standards, especially the youth. It means making decisions that are not only legal, but also morally sound and aligned with core ethical principles. At its essence, ethical leadership emphasizes integrity, transparency, and fairness in all decision-making process. Ethical leaders carefully consider the impact of their actions on employees, customers, stakeholders, and society as a whole. They lead by example, demonstrating, again, empathy, honesty, and humility. A lot of African leaders, unfortunately, we all know when it comes to humility, sometimes fall short. These leaders recognize that achieving short-term results is not the sole focus. Rather, they strive to create sustainable and inclusive work environment where every individual feels valued. Be poor or rich, where every individual feels valued. They actively promote diversity and inclusion while fostering trust and open communication. In a lot of African countries these days, when you speak the truth, you obviously get unfortunately victimized, which is rather unfortunate. Open communication, helps with long-term development. Ethical leaders engage with stakeholders across various sectors, including government bodies, non-profit organizations, and local communities, to force synergies and implement impactful collaborative initiatives. You need to make a difference as an ethical leader because you are not here alone. You are with people. And when they are developing, you are also developing as a person. These efforts address pressing issues such as poverty alleviation, fraud and corruption, educational disparities, healthcare access, and environmental sustainability. My fifth and final food for thought for my distinguished colleagues. Is there sometimes a conflict between purpose, ethics, and morality? Consider historical figures like Cecil Rhodes of South Africa, one of the most brutal capitalists. Lee Kuan Yew, were they confronted with such conflicts in their pursuit of their goals? Lee Kuan Yew, we know what he has done for Singapore. Cecil Rhodes, obviously, right now, there's scholarships all over the place, one of the richest people and the families still in the world. Summary and my conclusion to the perceptivities of the links between purpose, morality, and ethics. In summary, developing countries are seriously grappling with numerous challenges, including poverty, inequality, environmental degradation, social injustice, all underscoring the critical importance of purposive and effective leadership. Leaders who are clear about their purpose, ethics, and moral values are better equipped to navigate these complex priorities and drive positive change. Such leaders inspire trust and confidence by aligning their actions with their core values, thus fostering inclusive growth and sustainable development. They demonstrate resilience and adaptability, ensuring that their leadership remains relevant and impactful in the face of evolving circumstances and challenges. However, it is essential to acknowledge that perceptions of purpose, morality, and ethics can vary widely among individuals and cultural contexts. The motivations of leaders may be driven by different factors, whether it be a strong sense of purpose, adherence to moral principle, or a commitment to ethical conduct. For instance, examining historical figures, one might ask, were they guided primarily by their sense of purpose, their moral values, or their ethical standards? Let me name a few for food for thought. Lee Kuan Yew, Jomo Kenyatta, Nelson Mandela, Julius Nyerere, Vladimir Putin, Jacinda Ardern, Willie Mandela, Kwame Nkrumah, Margaret Thatcher, Lee Jae-yong, the Samsung chief executive that went into prison, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Steve Jobs, Xi Jinping, Jeff Bezos, Paul Kagame, Ernest Oppenheimer, Cecil Rhodes, Winston Churchill, Bill Gates, Robert Mugabe, Ali Dangote, and many more. Understanding their nuances can provide valuable insights into the multifaceted nature of leadership and the diverse ways in which leaders address complex societal challenges. In conclusion, effective leadership demands a nuanced understanding of purpose, morality, and ethics, while remaining steadfast in core values. Your core values must never change, irrespective of your circumstances. Leadership that is grounded in a clear sense of purpose, strong moral principles, and sound ethical practices serve as the foundation for individual success, sustained individual success, thriving organizations, and flourishing societies. As you reflect on your own leadership journey, keep these points in mind, please, my distinguished colleagues, based on my experience. Relevance. Your impact as a leader is determined by how others perceive your relevance. You are only as effective as the value you bring to those around you. You are only as effective as the value you bring to those around you. You have to be people-centric. Leadership is fundamentally about guiding people, not merely managing them within an organization or in a community. Accountability. True leadership involves taking responsibility for your actions and decisions. Accountability, which, unfortunately is missing in a lot of African countries. That is what is causing a lot of our woes. Servant leadership. A leader's role is to serve the needs of the people, fostering their growth and well-being. A leader is a servant. If you see yourself as a leader without being a servant, you will eventually fail. Your purpose. Without a clear sense of purpose, leadership lacks direction and effectiveness. Without a clear sense of purpose, leadership lacks direction and effectiveness. Is that what is bedeviling Africa? This is for you to judge for yourselves. Listening. Leaders who fail to listen to others will eventually find themselves compelled to do so. Compassionate. Leaders must show empathy towards their individuals or people that they are supposed to be serving and guiding. You see that I did not use supposed to be leading. They are supposed to be serving and guiding, not leading. Never forget your roots. There is a tendency for some leaders to become more westernized than the westernized themselves. There is a tendency for some leaders to become more westernized than the westerners themselves. This is a problem bedeviling Africa. A leader must always stay grounded and modest. Grounded and modest. Be humble. True leaders are very humble. A true leader must be prepared to learn from others. The new leader must be prepared to surround him or herself with the best to get the best advice. If you surround yourself with sycophants and sponges and yes men, you will always get the right answers to the wrong questions. You will always get the right answers to the wrong questions. A leader must embrace constructive criticism and be ready to constructively also offer it in return. A leader must be bold to be rather right alone than wrong with the many. A leader must be bold to be rather right alone than wrong with the many. True leaders know that they are powerful today and powerless tomorrow. Leaders come and go. The nation will still be here, and they will be back into the society. So your leadership is temporary. You are here today and you'll be gone tomorrow. You're on a stage and you get off the stage, whether you like it or not. Great leaders avoid the short-term gain, long-term pain syndrome. There's a tendency for African leaders to really look out for the short term because of the election cycles. The short-term gain, long-term pain syndrome is what is bedeviling Africa. A performance-driven leader has respect for other people's time, rather be a bit early than late. There's a tendency in Ghana for leaders to let their counterparts wait when they go to their office. Respect each other's time because it sends the wrong signal. It's become an accepted norm in Ghana that the so-called Ghana mean time. It is wrong. As leaders, we need to try and change the mindset. What examples are we setting for the youth? They will also be late. It's not good for society building. The leader who thinks he knows everything sadly knows nothing. The leader who thinks he knows everything sadly knows nothing. And there's a tendency for some of our so-called leaders in Africa to think that they know everything and be very unacceptable of criticism and even advice. A leader must be solution-driven and not talk-driven. A leader must be solution-driven and not talk-driven. There's a lot of talking in African societies. You know, if there was a Nobel Peace Prize for talking, a lot of business leaders, politicians will win it. Too much talking in Africa. Little bit of solution and action. True leaders respect other people's cultures. It's important that we respect other people's cultures and tribes, whether you are from this usually Ashanti or Ewe or Ghana or Kwiapem or whoever. We need to respect each other's culture. We are a unique society with different cultures, and that is what bounds us together. We need to respect. When you go into other countries, also respect their culture. We have to be data-driven as servants of the people. We have to be data-driven. If you really want to improve performance, you need to have data. You need to be able to plan, and it's only data that you can use to plan. The unfortunate reality in Africa is we don't have data. Some of the data are so old. When you listen to the budgets of most African countries, the AU-affiliated countries, sometimes it's very sad. It's just basically cut and paste from previous years. And nobody has the data to, unfortunately, benchmark. How do you plan an economy if your data is wrong? How do you build a house if the foundation is weak? Real leaders accept their flaws and work on it. Real leaders accept their flaws and work on it. Nobody is perfect. We are all human beings, and we need, as servants of the people, to be able to accept our flaws so that we can improve as we make our journey towards the inevitable death. True leaders do not promise what they cannot deliver. True leaders do not promise what they cannot deliver. True leaders also never overstay their welcome. They are on stage. When you are a leader, you are basically just on stage. Your time will come and you have to go, whether you like it or not. The greatest leaders are prepared to accept the good and bad things about their leadership. That is what makes some leaders be called the greatest. They are able to accept the good things and bad things about their leadership. Leadership is about making an impact and not accumulating wealth. Leadership is about making an impact and not accumulating wealth. If you do not believe in your own people, they will equally not believe in you. By integrating these principles into your leadership approach, you can enhance your own effectiveness and contribute positively to the communities and organizations that you serve. I take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for attentively listening to my perspectives on purpose, morality, and ethics, the inextricable link. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, for a very insightful presentation and delivery. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the next 15 minutes for questions. If you have any questions, you may put them in the chat box, or you may raise your hand and you'll be called to ask a question.
Yeah. I want to play my moderating role. But basically, thanking Prof so much for this excellent delivery. I think the lot that he's thrown at us, and it's for all of us to reflect over them basically ask and answer a number of simple questions. Prof started his presentation by basically underscoring three important interrelated factors that drive effective leadership. And the first one is purpose, followed by morality and ethics. Of course, if you have the right purpose, you have your moral standing is low, i.e. the tone at the top is poor, and therefore the ethical standards in the organization are clearly non-existent, you will not achieve your purpose. And that is basically for me, one of the key things that Prof wants us to pick up. And that is why in presenting these three areas in the form of a triangle, he stated clearly that they profoundly influence the character and trajectory of individuals and organizations, and of course, the society at large. Now, he wants further to basically explain to us what purpose is. Also talk about morality and also talk about ethics. The conclusion is absolutely clear, and it is for us. And this roundtable session is for us, as it were, not only learn on our own leadership journey and ask and answer key questions, key areas that he outlined, i.e. relevant, people-centric, servant leadership, purpose, and listening. How well are we placed as far as these key areas are concerned? So what I want to is to reflect on the presentation and as it were, also reflect on who they are vis-a-vis the key areas that he's raised. And please feel free to ask questions so that we can do justice to this topic, and also reassure Prof that we heard him and we understood exactly what he told us. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. The floor is open.
Hello.
Please, yeah.
Hello, good evening all, and thank you, Prof, for the very deep thoughts that you shared with us. I would like you to, again, share a few thoughts on the role and impact of followership in navigating these complexities. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, Prof. You
Okay.
want to take it?
Yes, thank you very much. You know, followership obviously is a complex subject matter, you know, and for me, from my perspective, when you obviously you want to follow, which a lot of African countries, the concept of followership basically, you know, staying behind and taking what I'll call a backseat and trying to see whether somebody can really help you with navigating the complex organizational and even societal issues. You need to know what you want. A lot of African societies, the unfortunate thing is we don't know what we want. We just sometimes follow blindly in terms of how we want to develop our economies. There are different definitions of what followership, but me, I like to keep things very, very simple. Now, when you know what you want and you are even in a queue, you will be patient to wait for your turn to come. But when you don't know what you want, you start to panic. And this is what has happened to most of the 54 or 55 AU affiliated countries. We need to be able to define what is it that we want as a continent, as very small nations within a continent. Followerships is something that, for me, from where I'm sitting, has not really worked for us because we have not really defined what is it that we want as countries and as people of Africa. And unless we are able to go back to the core fundamental issues and define what is it that we want as people, we'll keep on going around in circles. And when it gets to that point, the Africa we want is going to be very difficult for us to achieve the 2063 agenda. A lot of us will not be there, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to, as people, and especially our leaders, to be able to sit back and say, what is it that we want? So that if we are going to follow the principles in the UK, if we are going to follow the principles of the Americans, the principles of the Chinese, at least we have our own terms and conditions, But if you keep following without having your own agenda, then you keep following blindly. It's like somebody deciding to take you somewhere. You don't know where you are going. So you keep on following. And post-independence Africa, unfortunately, has been bedeviled with such unfortunate leaders. It's changing. Recent leaders, when you hear them talk, it seems that they are becoming more and more bold to try and define what is it that we want, rather than just following blindly. But, sometimes the boldness, just disappears because of the issues with debt. I've heard, and I'm not going to mention names, presidents all over Africa that have really gone out there to really say enough is enough. We are not just going to follow you now. But they crumble because of the fact that, there's very limited money in the kitty. So they are forced to go back and follow. And, our future is being determined by people that we don't even understand. I hope I've answered your question, my colleague.
Thank you very much, Prof. Indeed, you have. That's the real paradox of the situation we have navigating the complexities. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bebe, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for this wonderful treatment of leadership. There are two quick ones. In the intro, you are supposed to be managing an organization that's making good profit for Ghana. But if I got it quite rightly, not long ago, you were almost sold off. If that is true, what went wrong? I mean, it doesn't gel for me with this kind of leadership that you have shown. The second one is, what box would you put Ghana now under your leadership indicators, morality, purpose, and ethics? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the organization in question, obviously, I sit on two boards. Thankfully, both are doing extremely well. They mentioned the MIF, which I'm the chairman, which we managed to move asset under management from around 180 to about 1.5 billion US dollars, which is obviously for Ghanaians. The number is going to be verified shortly by one of the independent Big Four, so that at least it will come out, but it's an open secret that BIF is doing well. Now, Labadi, if the company is doing, the organization is doing well, why do they want to sell it? That was a decision that was taken by the shareholders in it. And obviously, there were reasons why they decided to do that. Possibly they wanted to cash in because it was doing so well. We are the only, as far as I understand, corrected on this, the only 5-star hotel in the sub-region that is declaring year-on-year dividends. There's a difference between being profitable and also declaring dividends. A lot of state-owned institutions, pontificate about profits, but they don't declare dividends. We declare dividends at Labadi. Now, Labadi is business. sometimes, it's all about timing. You might decide when you have an asset, you want to sell it. But you have to time it right. The question is, was the timing right? And two, was the value that had been put on it also right? And this is where I believe people should judge for themselves. Any owner of a property has the right to decide to sell. The question is whether it is the timing right or the value that has been put on the property is right. As a leader, I said we need to stop thinking about the short-term gain and look for long-term gain. Sometimes you make decisions in the short term, you gain something, but there will be unintended consequences moving forward. History will be the best judge of why the shareholder decided to sell. My role as the chairman of Labadi, I basically have to make sure that it is performing in my supervisory capacity. And I've managed to do that, and I will continue to do that so far as I am still there. I believe that Labadi has potential, whether it is sold or not. But the key to its continuity in terms of dividends and profitability will depend on the supervisory board and leadership. So far, there's been minimal interference from SNIT, the 100% shareholder. That is why it is performing. We work closely with the management, and we guide them to do what is right in the interest of Ghana. For me, it's not about politics. It is about Ghana. And I'm going to continue to do whatever I can based on my experience to make sure that Ghana and Ghanaians are not shortchanged. Labadi is going to continue as it is, whether the timing of the sale and the value that was put on it was fair value. That is up to the people of Ghana to decide for themselves. But as far as I'm concerned, I am doing what I can to ensure that at least the investments that SNIT has made in Labadi is paying off. And so far, they are very happy. And I think it's going to continue in the future. My concern for a lot of these institutions, and even including Memphis, is the continuity. It takes time for things to settle. And when you have institutions linked to this 4-year election cycle, we keep on going back and forth because it takes a while. I have been at Labadi since 2017 or so. So I understand the game. And because of my international experience as a board member, I'm able to guide and mentor. It works. You need to have a medium to long-term plan. And my concern with a lot of these institutions in Ghana is that every 4 years, we start again because of the serious political divide in our society. Every 4 years, something has to change. And when you change, what basically happens is the person that comes in takes another 2 years to really learn the ropes. Once the person is beginning to settle, then election comes. When election comes, obviously, then the whole thing changes. I believe that should change. We should try, and hopefully through SIGA, whoever is coming should be able to find a creative way of making sure that at least these CEOs, they are monitored. Board members are monitored. They are given maybe at least 6 years to run the business. If they don't deliver, you have benchmarks. You fire them. You fire them. But you don't wait to annual results. Monitor what they are doing every quarter. Have data. Have benchmarks. And then you fire. Our society and in most societies in Africa, we accept, mediocrity. It's something which baffles me. If you don't fire, how would you get people to improve? We need to start firing. If you don't deliver, you are out. State-owned institutions is public. It belongs to the public. It belongs to you and me. So we need to hold them accountable. I keep saying that we are servants. And if you are a servant and you don't do your job, you have to go. For me, that is purposiveness and ethic. It's unethical for somebody not to be delivering and the person is still sitting in there, taking a salary from the taxman. Why? And I'm glad that SIGA, is right now trying to bring some sanity into state-owned institutions. I am very, very happy they are doing that, because that will help to really take a lot of the burden of government. Thank you.
Yeah, the second one.
I'm sorry.
What box would you put Ghana under the leadership of your indicators, morality, purpose, and ethics?
That is a very interesting question. And morality right now, we all know what is happening in our society. If you look at the morality and ethics issues, if morality was high, Galamsey would not be happening when we know the implications for the water we eat. And I believe that we are all guilty, because if as society we sit in Accra or in Kumasi and think that what is happening in Asankragua or in Tubodom is not going to affect us, then we are dreamers. Because at the end of the day, the fish that you eat, it comes from the rivers. The tomato that you obviously use for your food or for your soup, it comes from the rural areas. Now, morality, we all have to reflect on our ethics and our morality. When things are benefiting us, we keep quiet. Morality, is it just for the government? It's for society as a whole. So if I have to rate, I will rate all of us, including myself, as having issues with morality. Ethics, I will also rate all of us, because for me, it's unethical when you know that something is wrong and you just sit back quietly hoping that the issue will go away because it doesn't affect you. We are all guilty as society. And if I want to rate society, I will rate it very, very low. Out of 10, do we get 8%? 8 out of 10, the answer is no, because we are all guilty and we all need to reflect. What is it that we want? What is it that we are going to leave for the next generation? What is it that we will help to build society? For me, it's not about the politics of the NDC or the NPP or the CPP or whichever PP is there. It's about Ghana. And when you have moral and morality, you will look at these things from that perspective. The big question is, are we doing that as people? You know, because the people that make the country. And as people, we are not helping Ghana because of the way and manner in which we view things. So my answer basically is that we are all guilty. We have to pull up our socks and make sure that the issues of Galamsey, the issue of plastic. I mean, in my neighborhood, right now, I've taken upon myself. I've employed somebody that basically picks out the rubbish. These days, I see that people, when they get to my area, they feel guilty. They don't put the rubbish. They walk down, then they put the rubbish. Why? Because they see it as morally wrong. Because the professor sitting there would question them, why are they doing that? We don't need government to keep our neighborhood clean. There is a moral issue. Is it ethical issue? Yes. We all have a responsibility to Ghana. And I believe that we are all guilty. On a scale of 10, I said we don't get 80%. 100 on a scale of 100%, we don't get 80%, because unless we have a fundamental mindset change in terms of what is it that we can do for our own society. We can keep talking every morning on Joy, on City FM, and this about morality has gone down, blaming government. But it's us. We elect these people. We also have to help them to do the right thing, and they also have to help us to do the right thing. Yeah. I hope I've answered your question, my distinguished colleague.
Yeah, wonderful. But
thank you, Prof. Can I thank you, Prof? 6 questions from the chat box.
Okay.
Yeah, the first one is how do we force leaders to be morally and ethically right as a society, because it appears we are losing it if we allow them to make the choice.
Yes. How do we force leaders to be ethical in society?
Morally and ethically right.
Morally and ethically
right. Yes.
We have to hold them accountable.
Yep.
It's simple. Okay. You hold them accountable. If they don't deliver, you fire them.
Fantastic.
Yes.
The second one, Prof, is Prof called names of some world great leaders, including some African leaders. Yet I didn't hear any name from Ghana apart from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Does it mean that our Ghanaian leaders have failed us? That's the second question.
Yeah. Now, they've all done their part. Kwame Nkrumah did a lot. Champon came also did his bit. They all, during their era, did their bit. President Akufo-Addo, Champon, Mahama, Rawlings, they've all done their bit. They were not perfect, and you don't get leaders. There's no perfect leader in this world. They all move the country forward a bit. Now it's up to us to be able to move the country forward. We have to learn from their mistakes. We have to learn, be positive about some of their achievements. I could give you an example of what is happening now, which I believe it's not perfect. Please don't get me wrong, but the institution of SIGA, which President Akufo-Addo has created, the fruits are beginning to bear.
Yeah.
And within the next 4 years, there was going to be transformation.
Yes.
Within state-owned entities. That is very positive. Minerals Income and Investment Fund is now asset under management and yet to be confirmed, 1.5 billion. This was the creation of Akufo-Addo. Yeah. There are other challenges. I mean, let's be honest. There are issues that needs to be urgently tackled. But let's look at the positives, what some of them have done. And if we keep on looking at the negatives, you become very, very pessimistic. You use it as a yardstick to make sure that it doesn't happen. And this is where sometimes I fault some of us, that we need to start looking at some of the positives. How do we build on a positive to inspire change? Because when you keep on talking about the negatives, you know, negativity breeds negativity, and then we keep going backwards. That doesn't help us. Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 3. Thank you so much. It appears you wanted to say a little bit something more.
No, it's fine. I'm done. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Prof. Question number 3. Thank you so much, Prof, for unveiling the truths about African leadership. The IUD is surely training its members to abide by these truths. What more can IUD do to reach out to the larger society with these hard to accept truths? Thank you.
Okay. I think some of these lectures that we have, we need to start collaborating with institutions like the National Council for Civic Education about the role of the IOD. IOD is so critical to industrialization and boardroom governance. Please note that directorship is a profession. Now it's not seen as a profession. And unless we are able to change the mindset of organizations, that directorship is a profession, you will still have these issues of, non-compliance. We as a body needs to be able to sanction our members that are unethical, that are morally wrong, that continuously and constantly flout the laws. We have to be able to, as a group, as a united front, we are very powerful. As individual directors, we are nobody. That's the same unfortunate thing that has happened to Africa. 54 nations and the economy of Togo, even a state in the US is far bigger. Most of the states in the US are far bigger than the GDP of Togo. IOD as a group, there are thousands of directors out there, but how many are members of the IOD? We as a collective need to find a way of getting the message out there that we are professionals. We are helping with socioeconomic development. We are helping with industrialization. Once the message gets out there, we'll be able to make a positive change and, build the country that we all desire.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Question number 4. Thank you, Prof, for a practical and spirit-led presentation. These 3 pillars of leadership form part of our African worldview. How can we reinvigorate these purpose, morality, and ethical values in a globalized world?
It's by being agents of change. We need to show to the world that we can do it. We need to be able to practice what we preach. I do not believe that we can keep talking and no action. We need to be more action-oriented than talking-oriented. We have to be able to show that leadership, if you are a leader, you are a servant. In Africa, is a leader a servant? This is something that my good old distinguished colleagues, you need to reflect on. It's not about just politicians. It's even about leadership within organizations. I see myself as a servant of Labadi Beach Hotel. I see myself as a servant of the Minerals Income and Investment Fund. So when you go to Labadi and you ask them about what do I do, how I interact with the people, it's not about them and me. No, it's about us.
Yeah.
Once we start moving away from that, then true leadership and true service to the people will come to the fore. Right now, we think they are under us. For me, no. It's about them being part of us. That is my leadership principle. And it seems to be so far working. Wherever I've been, be it in South Africa, be it in the UK, be it in Tanzania, and I believe you me, I've traveled the world and also sit on boards. They all see my style as working because it works.
Great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prof.
Yeah.
Question number 5.
Mhm.
Prof, based on your beautiful presentation, i.e. purpose, morality, and ethics, may I know from your opinion whether leaders are born or made?
You know, this debate has been going on for some time now. I believe circumstances can create leaders. And when leaders are born, you know, they might not necessarily be leaders. You know, circumstances create leaders. Let's look at the UK, the monarchy. They are born to be leaders, but are some of them leaders? No.
No.
There are leaders in Africa that came from nowhere, but because of the circumstances within which they are able to shine and come out and become a servant of the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is how
Thank
I
you.
see. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Prof. Question number 6. What can the followers of African leaders, and we're referring to politicians, do not, what can they,
Sorry, I did not hear.
yeah, written out.
Sorry, I did not hear. The line.
Yeah, the questions are not well written out. Let me just skip that one and move on to the next one, then we'll reformulate that question.
Okay.
Question number 6 is, what can the followers of African leaders, no. With Kenya's case in point, what will be the appropriate role followers can play in getting leaders to respond to the need for ethical leadership?
Okay. For ethical leadership to happen, you still it goes back again to what I said earlier. Accountability. Hold people accountable. When people are held accountable, when people are dismissed, when people are sanctioned, they will do the right.
True.
Yes.
True.
If I know,
Thank you.
let me give you a classic case.
Mm-hmm.
We all have issues in terms of difference of opinion, rather, not issues, in terms of the founding fathers of this country. Now, I was in America when I heard that the statutes in the circles, somebody had gone and vandalized it. Why? And the person is walking around. Now, you set a very dangerous precedent. Now, if you are angry with you don't disagree, you don't agree with something, you can go and just vandalize. Why? But somebody was standing there and this person was doing that. Is that morally right? Is that ethical? And they waited for him to finish. We can't keep on basically breaking the law, whether we like it or not. Ghana is a society where we are able to express opinions, but it doesn't mean that we have to go and basically destroy things. That is taxpayers' money, so it's going to cost us. Why do we allow that? You can't go and do that in China. You'll be arrested. You'll be put in prison and fined. This person is walking around because he's angry.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
Last question, I think, apologies that we've overrun the time. The last question is, what can the followers of African leaders, and we're referring to politicians, do not to be influenced by some immoral and unethical behaviors of such leaders, so as not to feel intimidated and subsequently lose their job?
Okay. For that one, it goes back to soul searching. If you're a politician and you really know your purpose, what drives you? Why did you become a politician? What impact do you want to make in society? What do you want people to remember you by? Legacy. Do you want to make an impact or do you want to make money? And if so, if you want to make money, what is it that you want to do that will make you that money that you want? You know, a lot of politicians, even business leaders, they don't know their purpose. Me, it took me a while to find my purpose. And I have my issues, but because I have my purpose in terms of being a social entrepreneur, that is what drives me. And nothing is going to change that. I will have my challenges, but I will keep going. Because as a social entrepreneur, I believe that I have to make a difference. And difference is not about sometimes all just about money. Sometimes you can use knowledge to make a difference. And that is what I'm trying to do through the Nyansakasa and also my books, which obviously when sponsors, they all help me to do because they know I want to basically make a difference. But you know, when I'm making a difference, it's not that I'm doing it just for them. It also helps me because when society is peaceful, I also live in peace. And sometimes our politicians don't realize that. You know, they have this me, myself, and I syndrome, and everybody now wants to be a politician because they see that's the easiest way out. That is very sad. But me, I don't give up hope. I think all of us also on this platform, we are all perpetual optimists that tomorrow is going to be brighter. So we are going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, no matter our frustrations, because that is why we are there for. As a director, you are also a servant of the people and also for the companies that you work for.
Thank you, Prof. I think where we are now, it's 8:15. One popular request on the chat box. It's basically a request for you to kindly agree that your slides are shared among participants. That's number one. And number two, that we can also share the recording of the presentation with them. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Please do. Please do.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah, please do.
So on this note, Prof, I'm sure that from the kind of questions that have come from the participants, I'm sure it is absolutely clear that your presentation was truly excellent. It made an impact. And that's the kind of high quality questions that we've got. So from the IOD, because the president of IOD is on the platform, we want to thank you so much for creating time to prepare and deliver such a wonderful presentation. On this note, may I invite Madam President to give us her closing remarks so we can bring this program to a close. Thank you so much. So, Madam President, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brema. I acknowledge the presence of our council members here present, Madam Vice President, Mrs. Mary Asariabua, and Dr. Rejoice Odumdeji Foley, who have also joined us on this call. Fellow directors, we want to declare who we are. Who are you? And what role are you playing? We have heard about purpose, morality, and ethics as inextricable link to effective leadership. We want to appreciate our values, which will inform our decisions, our actions and inactions. Do we have the moral authority to judge What legacy are we leaving behind? What examples are we setting? Are we walking the talk of ethical leadership? Where are our gaps? Do we even have a toolkit? What kinds of tools are we putting into this kit? As professionals, what skills are we intentionally and deliberately developing? Is it conflict resolution? Is it emotional intelligence? Is it critical thinking? Whatever tools we need must resonate with our purpose and our calling. And I will suggest that we get the most important tool, which is a compass. And not just any compass, but a compass that works, that is able to point you to the true north. If we do not have compasses that work, we are as good as blind. On this note, I'd like to say a big thank you to Professor Douglas Boateng. Once again, he has stimulated our intelligence. All the juices are flowing. And Prof, thank you. We would love to have the slides and to go over the audio as we sharpen our source to become ethical leaders. And as we wear our fabric every day of accountability, of transparency, of truthfulness, of integrity, of responsibility, and of excellence, effectiveness, or efficiency, we want to remember that we are on a stage, as we have heard. We will finish playing our roles and exit the stage. What would posterity say about us?
Yeah.
What do we want to be said about us?
Yeah.
We still have time. We can champion the cause of ethical leadership, but we cannot give anything that we don't have.
Yep.
So let us come together once again, as we usually do, to sharpen our source, to challenge the assumptions that we hold as individuals, as professionals, and to walk the talk of ethical leadership, not just pointing the way, but walking and leading that way. Thank you very much for joining us, and God bless us all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam President. And on this note, bring this roundtable session to a close. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Prof, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I just had to cut to close it. Otherwise,